Hey, Thoughts in the Crossfire, what's going on? So, I know I haven't uploaded in ages, but I want to talk quickly about basically what I'm going into in university and why, and this relates back to my video called 1-Aught, which didn't have very many views, so you probably haven't seen it, but 1-Aught relates back to that, so if you have seen it, that's kind of where I'm going, but I want to talk about where I'm going for university, or I don't know where I'm going as far as what university, but I know the subjects that I want to study, which are philosophy and computer science. Now, the philosophy probably won't surprise you too much. The computer science maybe a bit. I have gotten into programming a little bit through music theory stuff. All the programs that I've written so far have all been about music theory, which is kind of interesting. But if you've seen my music channel, which is probably pretty likely, you know, a lot of people on there ask me, like, are you going to school for music? And the answer to that is actually no. If I was to follow my passions, you know, in that kind of classic sense, you know, do something that you enjoy, do something that'll make you money, do something that you're good at. If I was to take those three things and try to do the best with that, I'd probably do physics and music on the side. So I'd, you know, major in physics for sure, and then either minor or double major in music. However, I think that, you know, that's my passion, but my passion is less important than what literally objectively ought to be done. Now, some of you might not actually think that objective morality exists, and I would actually agree with you, but there is a sense in which there is a statistically objective moral obligation to seek the truth of morality. Because even if morality doesn't end up existing, you're still maximizing the chance that you're doing what's right by seeking the truth of morality. Because you can't do what ought to be done if you don't know what ought to be done. And so, this is where philosophy and computer science comes in. Basically, humans have shown themselves to not be very good at this. We've been trying to figure out morality for a very, very long time. And we really haven't gotten anywhere. There's nowhere near a consensus, and the number of philosophers who are nihilists has actually risen a lot in the last 100 years. It's now over a quarter of philosophers are moral nihilists, so we don't even agree that morality exists, and we definitely don't agree what exactly the metaethical structure is, if there is one. So we seem to be very bad at figuring this out. Now there's two possible reasons for why this is. One, morality is really just a biological construct, it's not really there, and this is the one that I would tend to say is probably the case. However, can't be certain. So the other option is that morality is there. Morality is inherent to reality, but we're just too stupid to figure it out, or for some other reason we are incapable of figuring it out. So it's there, but we're incapable of figuring it out. We clearly are incapable of figuring it out because we haven't figured it out. But you know, a lot of people think that they've figured it out, but you know, you just haven't. You know, there's too much disagreement for anybody to reasonably say that they're confident that they've figured it out. So you know, we are clearly incapable. There's two options. Either we're incapable of finding it meaning finding a real morality and getting a solid grasp on what that is. We're incapable of finding it either because it's not there or because we are simply incapable and it is there, but we're too stupid. I mean, that's what I want to say, but you know what I mean. And so, if it turns out that morality doesn't exist, then whatever. Like, nothing really matters in that case. Nothing good, nothing bad. It's just whatever, right? But if morality really is out there, if morality is an inherent part of reality, and we're just too stupid to figure it out, that's bad, and we need to figure it out. And this is where computer science comes in the form of investigating and pursuing superintelligence. Now, this is probably controversial, again, because lots of people think they have morality figured out in some respect, or they think, you know, they have some sort of idea of where it will be, and maybe because of that, you think that superintelligence can't access it. But I would challenge you with this. If morality is a real part of reality, then we wouldn't expect it to be bound to the specific chemical processes of Homo sapiens, and we would expect to be able to find it with any superintelligence. Now, you got to remember what superintelligence is. This is artificial intelligence that is smarter than us, right? Smarter than us and faster than us. We don't have this yet. We're not even really close. I mean, who knows how many decades it's going to take, but it probably is going to be measured in decades as to how long it's taking from now. It's probably not centuries away, it's probably decades away. But even if it is centuries away, the faster we get that, the higher the likelihood that we will be able to quickly find what ought to be done. Right? There's a likelihood that there is something that ought to be done, but then on top of that, there's a likelihood that if there is something that ought to be done, that we actually find it, and I want to maximize that likelihood, and I think that the best way to do that, at least right now, the thing that I think right now is that investing in superintelligence is the way to go, because humans have shown themselves to be pretty poor at figuring this stuff out. So that is why I'm going into computer science and philosophy. Philosophy because I want to make sure I have my head on straight going into this pursuit, and computer science obviously because that's what I would go into if I was going to pursue superintelligence. So there you go. That kind of also summarizes what I was talking about in 1-ought. Which is basically that the 1-ought that I know is the case is that we ought to seek the truth of metaethics, and ultimately we ought to maximize the probability that what ought to be actually is. And then there are lots of components to that. There's a probability that oughts exist, and then there's a probability that if oughts exist, that we actually know what they are, and then there's a probability that we're actually doing what's right, but I want to maximize that as best as I can, because that's just objectively what I ought to do, and objectively what ought to be done. And I think currently it seems to me the best way to do that is to invest in superintelligence to try and figure this thing out, because it doesn't look like humans are doing a very good job at it. And yeah, that's about it. Kind of a short video, kind of a one-take video looks like. But hopefully you enjoyed that. I know it's been a while, but I have some ideas going into the future for some spicy topics maybe. But anyway, we'll see where that goes. But thank you so much for watching. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Of course, let's have discussions about any of this stuff. And yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time.